Well, I can't say it's the most pleasant day, but I can't say it's the end of the world either. I think we all know about Eron's injury. Matt released it. You know as much as I do. It's going to be something that they're going to probably do surgery in 3 to 4 weeks. The swelling goes down, and then they'll be able to give a much better indication of exactly what it is. But it's a significant knee injury. If you got a chance to see it on TV, it buckled pretty good. And yet I am so proud of this kid for how he's handled it. Yesterday he gave a passionate speech to our players on what they should do, and I thought it was amazing. You know, we have 2 weeks left of the regular season and a ton to play for. And, you know, after we talk here for a second about Eron, 100% of what we do is going to be on Nebraska, especially since they beat us 2 times in a row here. But if you watched what happened with Eron, and I didn't know till I got home, I saw the tears in the eyes of players out on the floor, and it kind of hit me in a weird way just because of who they were. I watched Nick Ward, what he did. I watched Miles. He was a wreck, and I think it gave me a great appreciation for how far Eron's come as a player and as a person. I think about a month and a half ago, he really took to the serious level of trying to lead and help these younger guys, and I think the relationship they had with him was second to none. He touched a lot of people, and he moved a lot of guys emotionally, and yesterday was one of those days that was priceless as a coach, to be in a meeting and hear him speak and couple the players. And as I've said, you know, we've had some ups and downs. We've had some significant injuries, but thank God I've got as good a group of guys as I've got. Our team's togetherness will help us get through this, and still pushing towards, you know, some of our goals. And Eron's injury does provide an opportunity for other guys. Alvin Ellis has been playing pretty good. Matt McQuaid, who's actually starting to make a few shots, is a very good defender. We're going to have to do a better job of getting the ball into Nick, which we haven't done a good job of recently, but at the same time, playing 12 minutes, playing a minute and 43 seconds the first stint, and playing a minute and 7 seconds to start the second half. Those things are difficult. I do not feel any different than I felt after the game, as poorly as we played, about some of the things that went on in that post, and I struggle with that. So as far as Nebraska goes, they are definitely playing better. One reason is Morrow is back. I saw a stat where they're 5-2 when he plays in the Big Ten and 1-6 when he doesn't. They've had a close game at Iowa until late, 1 point loss to Wisconsin. They beat Penn State handily and just beat Ohio State at Ohio State. Morrow's their third leading scorer and their leading rebounder. He had 13 rebounds against Wisconsin. But Webster and Watson are still probably the keys. I think they're one of the best guard tandem. When we played them the first time, we were assured they were the 2 best guard tandems in the league. They're both averaging more than 15 points a game in conference play. And I'm sure they'll come in with a lot of confidence, considering you know, what they've been through in their last big win on the road and the fact that they've beaten us twice here. So we got a lot of things to try to do in the next couple of days. One is to do a better job moving the basketball, doing a better job getting it inside and outside, and that's what we're going to work on. And yet, I don't feel great about where we are, but I feel good that everybody's moving in the same direction, and we're still got a lot of things to play for. There's a lot of teams around the country that are in the same boat or worse off than us, except for our injuries. But as they say, you work on things you can control, not things you can't control. We can't control those anymore, so we'll move forward. Questions?
Tom, to start the year, you said you thought Eron would lead the way scoring, but he has been a leader defensively. Do you talk to a Joshua, an Alvin, and a Matt, not about the points, but they got to step up their defense?
Well, that's what I think, probably. I don't know what you guys felt, but Eron has been really good defensively, and he's been really good communicator on defense. That's what I'm worried about the most, because that's an area Josh really struggles, Cash really struggles in. He was kind of the vocal guy out there that was telling guys in switches and knew the plays and all those things. So he's going to be more of a loss than we think. Plus, the threat, is going to be significant. When he catches the ball, he's a threat to do something with it. So you're right. I think we are going to talk to all three of those guys. I think Alvin's ready to step up some. Those other two guys are going to have to step up a lot if we're going to find a way to win these games coming up.
I know the rotation's been kind of crazy all year, but Alvin's a guy who's been able to give you points off the bench. Is there a thought keep him there?
Yeah,
not maybe
there is.
Yeah.
There is. I just got out of a staff meeting, and I'm not positive what I'm going to do, but on the other side of the coin, being a senior, and that he has kind of worked his way into deserving. What I liked about him coming off the bench is he could guard and he could play multiple positions. But, I'd be leaning towards him right now. But that'll be a meeting him and I will have, my staff will have, and we'll see how the practices go in the next couple days. As you say, with this team this year, I don't think it's going to affect. It's been everybody's in a row. There has been no rotation, as we've said, which is a little bit the bad news. But if you look at it, guys, we're still 8-6 in the league, and there's a lot of teams that wish they were where we are. So it's not I'm not Mr. Positive on a lot of things, but I definitely think that our team is going to rally behind this. And hopefully our fans will rally behind this, because this has been the most unique year of my career, and yet exciting to see how we can finish and reach some of the things we still plan on reaching.
You kind of alluded to some of that stuff. Is there a way, with Kyle playing the way he is, could you move him into the 3, Langford over to the 2? What other kind of things are on the table?
Yeah, we can move everybody. The way Connor George is playing, he might as well play another walk-on and see if we can play 4 this year, because he's been shooting the daylights out of the ball. But definitely Kyle has been earning more, playing better. His athleticism is back, so he's moving better. So I think he can guard 3s. That could be an issue. We could play Miles there, and especially defensively or offensively. We have some options on what we can do. Why should it come easy? It might as well be difficult. That's the way the whole year's been. I think we're just going to find a way. That's what I think. And we're going to do some testing here in the next day or two and go into the game as best prepared as we can. But I like I said, if the meeting I was in yesterday, it was a feel-good meeting. You kind of appreciated that sometimes there is more than just the game, and I think our players are going to take off from that.
Tom, you mentioned that your team has lost 2 in a row in Nebraska at home, but I know the first one came a few seasons back. But for a team that's already beaten Nebraska comfortably on the road, where are their heads at dealing with the fact that they've lost those couple at home but have already taken care of this Nebraska squad in Lincoln?
Well, some of those guys didn't even play when Nebraska beat us at home, and I think anytime you beat a team once, the second time is more difficult. But I also think that our players realize we shot a very high percentage down there, both from the 3 and the 2, and but we did play very good defense, and our defense got us a 19 or 20 point lead, I think. So hopefully they'll realize we got to win it the same way. And with our fans behind us, I'm hoping everybody kind of rallies behind all the obstruction and all the craziness that has gone on, because it's of nobody's fault. And I think that they're not looking at whether Nebraska beat us at home twice, whether we beat Nebraska. They're just trying to take it day by day right now and take care of what they can control, and that's how they play.
Tom, do you think your guys feel pressure towards the tournament streak when
you
probably read the bubble stuff?
I told you, ironically, at Nebraska, I talked about the white elephant in the room. It was the first time I've done that in my career, but I haven't talked about that since, and I really don't plan on it. I just plan on us figuring out a way. I mean, if I'm talking about it, there's 5 other Big Ten teams talking about it. There's 4 or 5 ACC teams. There's 3 or 4 SEC teams. I mean, there are so many teams right now that are 6-8 to 8-6 around the country that everybody's in the same boat. So I haven't put that pressure on them. Don't plan on putting that pressure on them. Remember this. When the year's over and we have that final meeting, it'll be fun to sit down at a big round table. Maybe we'll have dinner served. Might even have it at a restaurant for you guys, just so I can go through then the notes I've taken and what we've gone through that none of you will ever know till then. Not in a negative way, not in a surprise way necessarily. But these guys have been through a lot, so adding that pressure on, I mean, it's not their fault what's happened. And it's not as easy as you think just to pick up the pieces all the time. Matt's question was pretty good, like it's not like all year anything's been different as far as the lineup. I mean, it's always seems to be ever changing, but of nobody's fault. Not very often is it because some guys played better or worse. It's just because of the situations we've been placed in. So I don't know. That'd be a good question to ask the players, I guess. I hope they would answer it as, hey, we're taking it one game at a time right now. I'm not going to give you the stoic answer, but what else can we do? We got to find a way to beat Nebraska. As much as I hear you saying, there's got to be 50 teams on the bubble then, right? I mean, when you look at it, you hear all these guys talking about how many teams that are 500 in a conference will get in. Who knows? Who knows? My guy's on the selection committee and doesn't have a clue. I think there's going to be a lot of things happening these last 2 weeks. We just got to take care of as much of our business as we can to see where that takes us.
Couple of things, Tom, 2 questions, and I'd love an invite to that round table at the end of the year.
You got it.
When yesterday's meeting, I know you said you saw some tears in the eyes of your players on the court when Eron was down. Was it a tearful meeting yesterday as well? Just so I can set the scene and be accurate in my storytelling. Or emotional, is that how you'd characterize it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe for the coaches, almost as much as the players. It was, there's something when an athlete, I said there's different kinds of athletes. There's guys that are, that like the game. There's guys that love the game. And then there's guys that live the game. And he was a guy that lived the game. In other words, there wasn't a day that went by that he didn't come in this building. And that was when he came here as a red shirt on. There wasn't a day that went by that he didn't talk about, what he wanted to do in life. And it wasn't just to get to the NBA. It was he wanted to play basketball somewhere. Sometimes, as we all say, the real world can be cruel. Here's a kid. I have some guys that like the game. It's okay. And I have some guys that love the game. But there aren't a ton of guys that live, eat, and sleep it. He was one. And for him to say that I went into the game thinking that, I only got 6 games left. And he said, and I was leaving on the stretcher, I realized my career's over. And that was hard.
You talked about that this might be something you guys can rally behind. Is that something you even mention or coach, or is it just something that these guys gravitate to emotionally because they've seen what their teammate has gone through?
Well, that's the funny part of the meeting. He told them as we were going to watch a little bit of film on our game that you better watch film to learn what you did wrong so that we can keep improving, because you never know when your last game is. And I think he'll help us rally. I don't think it'll be, let's win one for the Gipper. I think it'll be, he had a bunch of those teammates that I think lived the game, and some of them lived it with him. And he wants to make sure, really, 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 yeah, I was impressed when I walked out on the floor. It was, I don't know why it hit me. And I looked at Miles, I don't know why it hit me. You know, I said a freshman and a senior, he's only known the guy for 6 months, but I think it's kind of spoke volumes of who Miles is, and of course Tom is Tom, but Nick Ward too, you know. And as I did that and I watched them, and then I watched those guys yesterday, I told you this at the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and the end of the year. I do have an incredible group of guys. They've been through the ringer now. They've been through it in every way you could be. You know, it's, as I said, there's been, a lot of injuries. There's been a lot of missed time in the summers, and the Miles situation even in the middle of the season. But they banded together, and I think Eron is going to help us. I told him we're going to make him an assistant coach. He's tough to even get around because he has to keep his knee perfectly straight, so it's hard to be on crutches. You can't drive. You can't do nothing. And that'll be for at least 3 to 4 weeks before he has surgery. And so I think he's going to help me. You know, I think everybody should play for themselves. They should play for their teammates. And when you've had a fallen guy, and, you know, that doesn't exclude Ben or Gavin, because they may have a chance to play again, where, as Eron said it so realistic yesterday, you know, when you're taken away on a stretcher and you realize your career is over, not many people do that. Not many people go through that, and that's why it was kind of tear-jerking, kind of emotional yesterday to hear a guy express his feelings about that in such a classy and dignified way, and not blaming like we all do. You know, why did I get cancer? Why did I do this? Why did I lose this? There was none of that. It was about as mature and well handled. I wouldn't have done as good a job. He kicked my butt. I just, you know, I gained so much respect and appreciation for what he had done behind the scenes, watching the other players, and what he did for me in that meeting, just listening to how he explained it. It was one of the good things about being a coach. It was, you know, they always say locker rooms are sacred places. Well, that meeting room up there, there's going to be something that I'm going to put in there from things he said that'll be Eron Harris, and that'll go in before the summer.
Tom, first time against Nebraska, you talked a lot about the guard play, and obviously they remain. You didn't have to face Admaro first time around. What kind of dimensions does he bring to this team? I'm sure, or if you haven't looked at it against Ohio State, what he brought off the bench for them, what kind of challenges?
Well, he's like a Murphy from Minnesota. He's a 6'6", junkyard dog. He's just a rebounding, athletic, tough junkyard dog. You know, perfect guy for Tim Miles. How he coaches, he's the perfect guy, and that's why they were 1-6 without him, probably. But he does bring another dimension to Songa. How do you say that? Him too. You know, he's gained a lot of valuable experience, And that's so in the end, it's going to help them be a better team. Hey, they're 6-8. You know, they're just like everybody else. There's so many teams that are between 6-8, 8-6. They're playing for a lot too. So I think Morrow helps them a lot. He gives us something else to worry about, but at least we match up somewhat in size. So that's a plus.
Tom, the game out of reach the other day against Purdue had Miles in for the last minute. Was there anything to that?
Yeah, you know, I felt like Miles. You know, I'm concerned with. I'm trying to get him moving a little bit more, and he says he's not tired and maybe mentally a little bit, but I need to get him a little bit more where he's got to become a little more selfish as a player, and that's what I told him. You know, I want him to drive the ball more and do a few things. So I was just trying to give him that opportunity to do that. There was nothing big either way. I could have taken him out. I did take him out, and then I put him back in. I just trying to build him in. I mean, they had all theirs guys in too till late, so it wasn't for any reasons. It wasn't like he was going to make a new scoring record or rebound record, and I really am not worried about him getting hurt, and I don't coach that way, but I'm more worried about, you know, the next couple games. He's going to have to do more and more and figure out a way to get him a little more selfish, to be a little more aggressive.
I'm kind of interested in the evolution of figuring out, learning how to coach him, you know, what he can take, whether it's yelling at him, whether
he
it's...
He can take a lot.
You know, how what you've learned about that and where it is right now going into this closing stretch of how you handle it.
I think this is a big stretch for Miles. I think, you know, he's been an unbelievable guy to coach because you can do anything. You can hug him, kiss him, you can yell at him, you can... he is about as respectful and good a kid as I've had here, especially for a great player. I think sometimes to a fault. I think he's got to get a little more aggressive, but you look what he's been through too, you know, you start to feel comfortable and then, you know, switching guys and then there's new guys and it seems like then he's hurt and then, you know, so he's been through a lot too. As a freshman, there's even more pressure on him, but we have to do a better job. He's got to get more touches. He's got to be involved in more of it. That's one thing my staff and I talked about today. And he's got to be more aggressive. So how do we push him? Just talk to him. You know, we're going to bring him in today and talk to him. He doesn't do, it's not like he does a lot of things wrong. Sometimes he doesn't do them as aggressive as I think he needs to for his sake and for ours. But, you know, the one thing I learned real early with Miles is, I mean, you can coach him any way you want to coach him. He's been a treasure to coach. That's all I can tell you about Miles.
Has this been your most challenging season? I mean, the turnover we talked about going into the year, but now with this and Miles in the middle, has this been your most challenging season?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I don't. They're all the most challenging when they're at the time. You know, you go through something and you know. But I don't know. Yesterday was uplifting for me. As dumb as that sounds, it was like, you know, there's other things you get out of this. And yesterday I was privileged to go through something that was good. It was good. It helped bring perspective to everything. And I still think this team can make a little run here. I mean, we played better basketball lately. Yeah, we didn't play great. That was a tough matchup for us, especially when we got into foul trouble. You know, I thought we were playing 4-on-5 once, and here Kyle Arns was guarding Hawes. I just didn't see him on the floor, so I thought we were in violation one time. It was just a tough matchup for what we have. Thank God there's not many of those kind of matchups out there that I know of. So we've been shooting it better. We've been still turning the ball over some. Our defense has been good at home, average on the road. All the things that you expect with a young team. The injuries, Goins and McQuaid coming back after missing the summer, that shocked me a little bit that it took longer, so we've adjusted to a million different things. I don't think I've ever had a year where so many things have happened, but at the same time, I'm not sure I've had many years, there's been a couple, with better guys to deal with. A quote-unquote superstar that's just like everybody else, seniors that embrace freshmen. There'll be a lot of things that I'll say, I hope I don't go through that again. And there'll be a lot of things that I say, wow, I was privileged to be able to go through that. So we'll learn from it, we'll get better, but right now, we're gonna try to focus everything we got on Nebraska. And I know it's such a cliche coach's statement, one game at a time. Trust me when I say this, we have no choice but to take it one game at a time. Not worry about the bubble, not worry about the tournament, not worry about anything else, just worry about the, what do we got left? The 10 scholarship players in the room, and see if we can make them into a team that could get better here at the end of the year.
Tom, for those of us who've covered you for more years maybe than we even want to remember, you've preached about footprints. In all the years I've covered you, I've never seen you react to a player off the court like this. Did Eron leave a footprint on Tom Izzo's heart?
Yeah, he did. He did. It really started happening about a month and a half ago. Eron and I met a couple times, and I started just realizing that sometimes you learn more from listening than from speaking. And then watching him with the players and watching, just what's happened. And then, of course, on the court, and then yesterday, there is a footprint, and that's why I've got a couple things from that meeting that I wrote down, and I'm going to make a choice on which one I want to use. But there'll be something in that room that'll have Eron Harris's quote on it, just like, there's some others, maybe a Mateen or a Magic or a Steve Smith, and maybe in some ways you wouldn't put him in that same group, but in other ways I'd put him right up there because of what he did for those young guys and just the way he handled it yesterday. Don't feel sorry for me. I'm a grinder, and that's what we got to be. But that's what I've been all my life. I look at myself, that's to me what I've been all my life. So, yeah, he left a footprint, a big footprint, and hopefully that footprint will help carry us forward. And what I mean by that is just help us understand that, you never know when your last day is. So make sure we do what we tell them all the time, play to your fullest so you have no regrets when it's done. Wow. All right, guys. Thanks. We're going to show up on Thursday with as many bodies as we can.
He got it.